How to make a titration curve using Excel. So the first thing you want to do is to make a table of all the data that you collected. And in this case, your first column will be the total volume of whatever base that you added in milliliters, and your second column will be the pH recorded at that volume. All this data that I'm using today is based on the experiment that we did last week in lab, which I'll attach a picture here of the setup that we use. The next step that we want to do is we want to insert a graph using the data that we just put in the table. So we're going to highlight the entire table and then go to insert, and then we want a scatter plot, but not just a normal scatter plot that you see at the top of the row. We want to press the arrow to the right, open the menu, and collect the scatter plot with the line through it. This is because we want the data to be shown as a curve with one line, and this is not a line of best fit. Once you insert the graph, you'll see that the axis titles and the main title aren't there, and we also don't need that legend. We're going to double click on the graph. We're going to edit the chart title, which in this case, it'll be the titration curve of an unknown acid, and then turn off the legend. And then now we're going to open the side menu where it says horizontal axis and turn on axis title and turn off major grid lines. This is the same thing with the vertical axis, where we're going to turn off major grid lines and turn on the axis title. As we can see in our graph, the first column is our x-axis and the second column is our y-axis. Therefore, whenever we're naming the graph, we have to match it up to the correct one. The x-axis will turn into the total volume of NaOH added in milliliters because we need units, and the y-axis will turn into the pH. Now we have to edit the scale since it's not all correctly there. For our y-axis, even though we started at a number between 4 and 5, we still want to include 0. If we look at our data to the left, we can see that the highest value it goes to is 12. Therefore, we can edit it to be 13, but that would mess up the scale. Therefore, you can just leave it at 14. Now, looking at the x-axis, we see it goes to 30 automatically when our data at max goes to 24. Therefore, we can change the maximum number to be 25 instead of 24 just so we can see our data a little better. Next, we're going to want to create the first derivative of a titration curve. So we're going to put a new column in our table that is going to be dpH divided by dV, and the units are going to be 1 over milliliter because pH doesn't have units but volume does, therefore we have to put it. So the way that we calculate this is by doing the specific equation, and the way you're going to type it into Excel is equals left parenthesis B3 minus B2 parenthesis divided by A3 minus A2. It depends where you put your table, so this isn't going to always work, but just know that you're going to have to do the values like that. It's going to be your second pH value minus your first pH value divided by your second total volume minus your first total volume. So if you see here, if you put your mouse on the edge of the box, and your mouse is going to turn from the white plus to the black plus sign. This means that all you have to do is drag down and it'll automatically fill the table. This is so you won't have to do it manually, and also it's better to fix your mistakes. We can also see that the data is completely different significant figures, so you can press the decimal button to increase how many zeros show, and I just put it at 3 decimal places for my answers just to make it look simpler. Now we want to insert another graph, but for this one, we only want the total volume of NaOH and the derivative that we just calculated. So what we're going to do is highlight the entire table, but then while holding control, highlight the pH column so it doesn't get in the graph. Now we do the same thing. We go to insert, the arrow, and then the scatter plot with the lines, and we see that our graph still has the same mistakes that we have to fix from earlier. This graph is how we find the equivalence point of our titration. Whenever you have multiple graphs, it's always good to change the color of one of them just so you can tell the difference. The titles are there to help you determine that, but it's just easier to visualize it if you change the color. So what you can do is double click on the graph, press one of the lines, and then press outline. That's where you can pick whichever color you want. I picked orange. And then to change the color of the dots, what you can do is again press on one of the dots, go to marker options, and then there outline and fill. Make sure that they're also the same color as the line